Hi
When we look at
everyone,
the sky
and
on a
welcome to The
quiet night,
Sleepy
it feels
Scientist.
endless,
I'm
as if
really
no
happy
edge
you're
could ever
here.
stop the gaze.
Tonight,
The
we're going to
stars
go on a
rest in
calm and
silence,
quiet trip to
scattered
learn
like
something
seeds across
amazing.
a dark
So get
ocean,
comfy,
and we
take a
wonder if
deep
they
breath,
spread
and
forever,
let's enjoy
or if
this
the
peaceful
fabric of
science
space
story
itself
together.
folds back on itself
Before
like
we
a great,
start, tell me in the
invisible
comments,
curve. For
where are you
thousands of
watching
years,
from, and what
humans have
time is it
asked
for you
not
right
only
now?
how
If
far
you like
the
relaxing
universe
science
stretches,
videos,
but what shape
don't
it
forget to
takes.
tap the like
Is it
button.
flat,
Now let's
bending
begin.
outward without end? Is it closed, looping back like the surface of a sphere, so that if you traveled long enough in one direction you would return to the place you began? Or is it something stranger, a shape beyond what our hands and eyes can imagine? These questions are not only about science, they are about the quiet geometry of existence itself. Mathematicians and physicists describe shapes not just as objects we can see, but as relationships in space. A line is flat because it never bends, while a circle closes in on itself because every point is tied back to its center. The universe may follow such hidden rules, written not on paper but into the fabric of space-time. When Albert Einstein developed general relativity, he showed that gravity is not an invisible force pulling at objects like a string, but the bending of space itself. Matter tells space how to curve, and space tells matter how to move. If a planet circles a star, it is because the star has pressed into the fabric of space, making a gentle valley that guides the planet's path. If that can happen on small scales, then what of the universe as a whole? Could the total sum of all its matter and energy bend the entire cosmos into a vast, subtle shape? To measure such things, scientists look to the oldest light we can see, the cosmic microwave background. This light was released nearly 14 billion years ago, when the universe was just beginning to cool from its first fire. It now stretches across the sky as a soft, ancient glow like embers of a cosmic fire that never truly died. By studying how that glow spreads and ripples, astronomers can test whether the universe is flat, curved inward, or curved outward. The patterns in the microwave background are like fingerprints, delicate signatures left by the shape of space itself. What they have found so far suggests a universe that is very close to flat, balanced on a knife edge between endless expansion and eventual collapse. Yet close is not the same as certain, and the possibility of subtle curvature lingers like a faint echo at the edge of thought. Flatness itself is a mystery. Imagine standing on a vast plain, stretching so far that no hill, no rise, no curve is visible. That is how scientists describe a flat universe. Parallel lines never meet, triangles add up to the neat sum of 180 degrees, and space continues outward forever. But such perfect flatness is puzzling, for why should the universe begin with just the right balance of matter and energy to prevent it from curving? If it had been a little more dense, space would have bent inward, collapsing into itself. If it had been less dense, it would have bent outward, scattering so quickly that stars and galaxies could never form. This fine-tuning led to the theory of inflation, that in the first sliver of a second after the Big Bang, the universe expanded at an unimaginable speed, smoothing out any wrinkles, flattening space into the vast canvas we see today. In that flattening lies the quiet stage on which galaxies, stars, and life could unfold. Still, flatness does not mean emptiness. The universe is filled with galaxies, great cities of stars that stretch into the millions. Yet the shape of the whole may not depend only on what we see, but on what we cannot. Dark matter and dark energy, mysterious forms of substance and pressure, weigh heavily on the cosmic scale. Dark matter adds hidden mass that tugs galaxies together, while dark energy pushes them apart, accelerating the expansion of space. Together they write the balance sheet of the cosmos, deciding whether the universe is closed, open, or forever balanced. Some scientists imagine it like a cosmic balloon. If the density is high, the balloon curves inward like the surface of a sphere. If low, it curves outward like a saddle. If balanced, it lies flat. And we, tiny beings on a small planet, measure the whispers of ancient light to trace the invisible outline of all that is. The wonder of this lies not only in equations, but in imagination. To picture a flat, infinite universe is to imagine traveling forever, never reaching an edge, never circling back. To picture a closed universe is to imagine space as the surface of a sphere, finite yet without boundaries, where every journey returns to its origin. To picture an open, curved universe is to imagine a space that spreads outward endlessly, its lines diverging, its distances stretching faster than thought can follow. Each vision is both scientific and poetic, for each asks us to think beyond the comfort of walls and corners. To picture shapes too large for hands to hold. As we reflect on these shapes, we also reflect on ourselves. For what does it mean if space is flat, infinite, and eternal? Does it mean that every possibility stretches on without limit? Or if it is closed, looping back on itself, does it mean that history may echo, repeating in patterns like waves on a shore? Or if it is open and curved, racing away faster and faster, does it mean that all things drift apart in the long quiet of time? These are not only questions of physics, but questions of being, folded gently into the same cloth. The universe holds its shape in silence, yet by listening, we begin to hear its soft geometry. Now imagine standing under the stars again. Their light has traveled across vast stretches of space, and in each photon lies a trace of the universe's curvature. You are not just looking at stars, but at the shape of everything. The arc of the Milky Way is not only a band of light, it is a clue written in the fabric of reality. You can almost feel it, the space between stars holding its own hidden design, invisible yet present, like the grain in wood or the current in water. To wonder about the shape of the universe is to wonder about the quiet architecture of existence, the stage on which all life, all thought, all dreams unfold. The answer is not complete and may never be, but the question itself is a kind of gentle music, guiding us deeper into the infinite night. If we let our minds drift deeper, we begin to see that the shape of the universe is not only about lines and curves, but about how time itself flows through the vastness of space. General relativity teaches us that space and time are inseparable, woven together like threads in a single cloth called space-time. When matter bends space, it bends time as well, stretching the rhythm of moments in ways we cannot feel directly. On Earth, time seems steady, but near massive stars or black holes, time dilates, slowing like water thickening into ice. This truth reminds us that the shape of the universe is not static. It is alive with the pulse of matter, light, and gravity. Each galaxy bends space-time around itself, and all of them together shape the grand architecture of the cosmos. Astronomers use a delicate tool called geometry to describe this hidden structure. In ordinary life, geometry tells us how to measure triangles or circles, but in cosmology it tells us how to measure the universe itself. If the universe is flat, the path of light is straight, and parallel beams travel side by side forever. If the universe curves inward, light beams that begin apart may slowly converge, just as the lines of longitude on a globe meet at the poles. If the universe curves outward, beams of light diverge, spreading apart like lines etched across the surface of a saddle. These differences might seem abstract, but they have profound meaning. They tell us whether the universe is endless, whether it folds in on itself, or whether it spreads beyond all sight. They are not just drawings in a book, but the invisible foundation of our reality. The cosmic microwave background is perhaps the most eloquent witness to this geometry. This faint radiation fills the sky, a soft whisper from the earliest moments of creation. When telescopes measure its tiny fluctuations, small patches that are warmer or cooler than their neighbors, they are measuring the shadows of ancient sound waves, vibrations in the plasma that once filled the young universe. The way those ripples spread depends on the curvature of space itself. In a flat universe, the ripples appear at a certain scale, matching what we expect from basic geometry. In a curved universe, they would look larger or smaller, stretched by the bending of space. By comparing the patterns, scientists have concluded that the universe is almost perfectly flat, yet the margin of uncertainty leaves room for mystery. It is as if we can see the handwriting of space, but some of its letters remain smudged, unreadable. To imagine this flatness, one can think of light traveling across billions of years without distortion. Galaxies far away appear in the exact proportions we expect, not magnified by convergence or shrunken by divergence. But this perfection raises its own puzzle. How could the universe, born from a violent explosion, have achieved such balance? Inflation offers an answer, suggesting that space expanded faster than the speed of light in its first instant, smoothing every wrinkle and evening every curve. This expansion was not like an explosion into emptiness, but a stretching of space itself, where every distance doubled again and again until the cosmos became unimaginably vast. In that expansion lies the reason we see flatness today, yet also the reason we are forever confined to a limited horizon, beyond which light has not had time to reach us. Inflation writes a paradox. The universe may be infinite, yet we can see only a finite portion like stand. Being on a shore before an ocean that never ends. Beyond these horizons lies another question. Could the universe have more complex shapes than flat, spherical, or hyperbolic? Mathematicians explore exotic geometries, spaces that twist and loop in ways difficult to picture. A torus, for example, is a shape like a donut, finite yet with no boundary, where one could travel endlessly and return to the starting point without ever crossing an edge. Some theorists suggest that space could be multi-connected in such a way, with light looping around, so that distant galaxies we see might actually be repeated images of closer ones, like reflections in a hall of mirrors. If this were true, the universe would be both finite and boundless, a paradoxical geometry that stretches imagination as much as mathematics. Searching for such repeating patterns in the microwave background is like listening for echoes in a great cavern. So far, no definitive echo has been found, yet the possibility lingers. Dark energy complicates the picture further. Discovered in the late 1990s, this mysterious force accelerates the expansion of the universe, pushing galaxies away from one another with ever-increasing speed. If left unchecked, dark energy could cause space to expand so quickly that even galaxies bound by gravity might eventually drift apart, leaving a lonely universe of scattered stars. In such a scenario, the shape of the universe would not remain static but would evolve, stretching outward more and more, flattening any trace of curvature until it becomes indistinguishable from infinite flatness. Yet the true nature of dark energy is unknown. It might remain constant, or it might change, leading to different fates, eternal expansion, eventual collapse, or even a strange oscillation where the universe expands and contracts in cycles. Each possibility sketches a different destiny, like lines branching on a tree of time. One of the most poetic aspects of cosmic shape is how it ties the largest scales to the smallest. Quantum physics suggests that even empty space is not truly empty, but alive with fleeting particles that blink in and out of existence. These tiny fluctuations may have been magnified during inflation, seeding the ripples that later grew into galaxies. Thus, the geometry of the universe may carry the imprint of quantum whispers from the very beginning. The vast curves of space and the minute trembling of particles are woven together, reminding us that the whole and the small are never truly apart. When we look at galaxies spread across billions of light years, we are also looking at the echoes of the tiniest events imaginable, frozen into the shape of everything. To bring these ideas closer, imagine yourself floating in intergalactic space, far from any star or planet. Around you stretches darkness, broken only by faint glimmers of galaxies. The silence is deep, yet in that silence lies structure. If the universe is flat, the galaxies stretch evenly in all directions, receding at predictable speeds. If it is curved, the arrangement subtly changes, as if space itself has its own perspective, shaping how light arrives at your eyes. You cannot see the curve directly, but you can feel its presence, like the way you know the Earth is round by watching a ship sink below the horizon. The shape of the universe is like that horizon, invisible yet real, guiding the paths of light and matter in ways we can measure but never touch. What is most moving is that this shape is not fixed forever. As the universe expands, as dark energy works its silent influence, the geometry may change over time. The triangles drawn by galaxies billions of years from now may not add up the way they do today. The cosmos is not a rigid structure but a living geometry, evolving with every moment. We exist in one chapter of its story, watching the lines unfold. Future beings, if they exist, may measure a different shape, and their wonder will be as deep as ours. In this way, the question of cosmic shape is not only scientific but existential, reminding us that we are participants in a universe that is itself unfinished, still shaping its own destiny. And so, when we stand beneath the stars and ask what shape the universe holds, we are also asking what shape our lives take within it. Are we part of an endless plane where every choice stretches outward without end? Are we travelers on a closed path destined to return to where we began? Or are we drifting outward into an open sea where all connections fade with time? The answers may be hidden in mathematics and light, but the wonder lives in the human heart. For to seek the shape of the universe is to seek the contours of meaning itself, folded into the dark fabric that carries us all. As we drift further into thought, the question of the universe's shape becomes less about measurements and more about perspective. The cosmos is not only a stage of stars and galaxies, but also a mirror showing you. The limits of what our minds can hold. When scientists describe flatness, openness, or closure, they are using the language of mathematics, but beneath it lies a deeper longing, to know whether existence has an edge, whether it folds in on itself, or whether it stretches forever into silence. These are questions as old as humanity, yet only in the last century have we begun to glimpse answers written in the sky. The great observatories that watch the microwave background, the satellites that map galaxies, the equations that balance matter and energy, they are all lanterns in the darkness, casting light on the vast architecture of everything. Consider the image of a flat universe again. In such a cosmos, space is infinite, stretching in every direction without limit. This is a comforting idea in some ways, for it suggests no boundaries, no walls to contain us. Yet infinity is also unsettling. It means that no matter how far one travels, there is always more beyond, an endless plane that dwarfs our imagination. Infinity is not a number but an experience of limitlessness, and in that endlessness one can feel both awe and insignificance. Some find peace in the thought of infinite space, for it means there is always more to discover, while others feel adrift, longing for a curve, a boundary, a circle to bring them home. Now imagine instead a closed universe, curved inward like the surface of a sphere. In such a cosmos, space is finite yet without edges, like the surface of the Earth. If you set sail in one direction long enough, you eventually return to where you began, not because of a wall, but because space curves back on itself. This possibility carries its own poetry. A closed universe would mean that every journey is a circle, every path a loop woven into the fabric of space. Some have imagined that in such a universe, history too might repeat, with events echoing across cycles of expansion and contraction. Though this is speculation, the thought itself feels almost musical, as if the cosmos were composed not only of matter but of rhythm, a recurring song played on the strings of time. And then there is the open universe, curved outward like a saddle. Here space expands without end, its lines diverging forever. Such a universe is vast, restless, and unbounded. Galaxies drift apart more quickly as time passes, until their light can no longer reach one another. Eventually, stars burn out, black holes evaporate, and the universe grows cold and dark. In this vision, shape and fate are one. An open universe expands into loneliness, a closed universe may collapse back into fire, and a flat universe balances eternally between the two. Each possibility speaks not only of geometry, but of destiny, whispering to us about the long future beyond our own brief time. The beauty of science lies in how it bridges these possibilities with evidence. By tracing the faintest ripples in ancient light, by measuring the slow drift of galaxies, by weighing the invisible hand of dark matter, we bring these shapes closer to clarity. Yet the mystery is never fully erased. There are uncertainties in every measurement, whispers of possibilities beyond our reach. Some theories suggest that our universe may be only one of many, each with its own shape and laws, forming a grand multiverse like bubbles in a vast cosmic sea. If so, the shape we measure may not be the ultimate shape of reality, but only one pattern among countless others. This thought is dizzying, yet it also expands wonder, reminding us that what we see may be only a fraction of what is. To live within such a mystery is both humbling and inspiring. We may never see the whole shape of the cosmos, for our vision is bounded by the speed of light and the age of the universe. Yet within our small horizon, we hold the tools of curiosity, imagination, and reason. With them, we trace patterns in starlight, hearing echoes of creation in radiation that has traveled billions of years. Each discovery is like opening a window in a darkened room, letting in a little more of the endless sky. And even if we cannot see the edges, we can feel the presence of something greater, a geometry that holds us gently in its embrace. Picture again the night sky scattered with stars. You are standing on Earth, a tiny sphere floating in an immeasurable sea. Above you, galaxies wheel in silence, their light bent by the curves of space-time. Around you, the air carries the faint warmth of a planet alive, spinning in rhythm with a sun that is itself only one star among countless billions. And beneath it all, the shape of the universe stretches, curves, or opens, carrying everything within it like a cradle. You do not need to know the exact geometry to feel its presence. It is in the way light travels, in the way time flows, in the way existence itself unfolds moment by moment. The universe holds its shape quietly, like a breath we cannot hear but can sense all around us. In the end, the question, what is the shape of the universe, may not lead to a single answer carved in certainty. Instead, it leads to a deeper form of seeing, that the universe is vast, mysterious, and alive with structure. Its shape is both mathematical and poetic, both precise and infinite. To ask the question is to place ourselves in relationship with the cosmos, to recognize that we are not outside of it but inside its very fabric, woven into the same curves, the same infinities, the same timeless geometry. And perhaps that is the quiet truth. The universe's shape is not something we look at from afar, but something we live within every moment, carried by its contours, folded into its endless design. As the stars wheel above, we may not know whether space is flat, closed, or open, but we can feel the wonder of being here now on this small world, asking the question at all. The shape of the universe is still unfolding, still revealing itself through light and time. And in that unfolding, we find both mystery and peace, like listening to the ocean without ever needing to see its farthest shore. Water has always been one of the simplest metaphors for motion, and yet one of the most profound. When you watch a river moving over rocks, you see how it bends, swirls, and curves around obstacles, never fixed, always flowing. In many ways, space itself behaves like this. Though invisible to the eye, the fabric of spacetime flows, bends, and twists around matter, responding to its presence the way water responds to stone. This truth, revealed by Einstein's theory of general relativity, reshaped the way humanity sees the universe. No longer is gravity an unseen force pulling objects together from afar. Instead, it is the bending of space and time itself, guiding planets and stars along paths etched into the invisible geometry around them. Imagine dropping a pebble into a still pond. Ripples spread outward in perfect circles, carrying the disturbance to every part of the surface. Now imagine placing a heavy stone in the pond's center. The water bends downward around it, and the ripples must flow differently, curving as they pass, reshaped by the hidden weight. This is how starlight moves as it crosses the cosmos. As it passes by massive stars or galaxies, the path of light is bent, like ripples curving around a stone. To distant observers, the star's light seems shifted, magnified, or doubled, a phenomenon called gravitational lensing. In these distortions lies one of the clearest signs that space is not rigid but supple, bending under the quiet pull of matter. The idea that space bends is almost too large to hold, yet nature shows it in subtle ways. For instance, clocks run more slowly in stronger gravity. On Earth's surface, time ticks ever so slightly slower than it does high above in orbit. The difference is so small that only sensitive instruments can measure it, yet satellites in our GPS systems must correct for this effect every moment. Without acknowledging the bending of time, navigation would drift and our devices would fail. In this way, the pliability of space and time is not just a distant curiosity. It is part of our daily lives, woven into the invisible infrastructure of modern existence. The bending of space can be seen most dramatically around black holes. These cosmic giants born from collapsed stars curve space so steeply that not even light can escape their grip. Around them, space-time folds into a pit so deep that time itself stretches, slowing for anyone who ventures too close. To an outside observer, a falling object seems to hover near the edge, frozen forever in time. But to the object itself, the plunge continues, vanishing into darkness beyond all return. Here, space behaves not like a rigid stage, but like a liquid whirlpool, spiraling inward, carrying everything with it. Black holes remind us that the bending of space is not just gentle, but can be absolute, reshaping the very meaning of place and moment. Yet this bending is not always so violent. On the scale of galaxies, space curves in ways that magnify beauty. When light from distant galaxies passes through massive clusters of nearer galaxies, the background light is stretched into arcs and rings. Astronomers call these Einstein rings, delicate halos formed by curved light. To see one through a telescope is to see not only the galaxies themselves, but also the invisible geometry of space revealed. It is as though the universe itself were a lens, bending light to paint pictures in the sky. These cosmic mirages are not illusions, they are truths, revealing hidden matter that bends space though it cannot be seen directly. In this way, gravitational lensing has become one of the best tools for studying dark matter, the unseen substance that makes up most of the universe's mass. If space bends like water, then it also flows. The expansion of the universe is not galaxies rushing through emptiness, but the stretching of space itself, carrying galaxies apart as if on a cosmic tide. Imagine ink dots on the surface of a balloon. As the balloon inflates, the dots drift apart, not because they move on their own, but because the surface expands. This is what happens to galaxies in the universe. The bending, stretching, and flowing of spacetime determines their motion, setting the rhythm of cosmic evolution. When astronomers measure redshift, the stretching of light into longer, redder wavelengths, they are measuring this expansion directly. The light itself is carried on the tide of space, its waves stretched like ripples in a widening pond. There is something deeply poetic in this. Just as water takes the shape of what surrounds it, so too does space. It curves around stars, flows around galaxies, ripples with waves of gravity released by colliding black holes. In 2015, scientists detected such gravitational waves for the first time, vibrations in spacetime itself caused by the merger of two massive black holes billions of years away. These waves passed through Earth like ripples across a pond, stretching and squeezing space by less than the width of a proton. Yet their detection confirmed a century-old prediction, proving that spacetime truly behaves like a fluid sea. To imagine it is to picture the universe not as a rigid frame, but as an ocean, trembling with the echoes of cosmic events. And in this bending, flowing universe, we find ourselves adrift like small boats. Our planet orbits the sun not because it is pulled, but because it follows the curve that space lays out. The moon orbits Earth for the same reason. Every motion in the heavens is a dance in water-like space, guided not by strings but by currents. When you look up at the stars, you are not looking across emptiness but through a medium that bends, stretches, and breathes. We cannot touch it, yet it carries us all, shaping the very stage on which life exists. To say that space bends like water is not only a metaphor, it is a truth, one that ties the vastness of the cosmos to the gentlest ripple in a pond. If space can bend like water, then it can also carry waves, gentle ripples born from immense events. These ripples, called gravitational waves, are unlike anything else in nature. They do not move through space like sound moves through air. Instead, they are distortions of space itself, expanding and contracting the very fabric of reality as they travel. Imagine tossing two heavy stones into a pond at the same time. Where their ripples meet, the waves interfere, sometimes amplifying, sometimes canceling each other. The universe works in much the same way. When two black holes collide, the collision sends gravitational ripples across space-time, and as these ripples pass through us, they subtly stretch and squeeze our world. We cannot feel them with our bodies, but with sensitive instruments, humanity has begun to listen to the quiet vibrations of the cosmos. The first direct detection of gravitational waves in 2015 came from such a collision. Two black holes, each dozens of times the mass of our Sun, spiraled together and merged more than 1 billion light-years away. The energy released was immense, greater in that brief moment than the combined light of all the stars in the observable universe. Yet what reached Earth was incredibly faint, a whisper in space-time itself. Detectors on our planet stretched by less than a fraction of a proton's width, yet that was enough to prove that space-time truly ripples. It was as though the surface of the cosmic ocean had finally revealed its trembling. This discovery did not only confirm Einstein's predictions, it opened a new way of seeing the universe, one that listens to waves instead of light, one that senses not just what shines, but what collides and merges in darkness. These waves remind us that space is not empty, not static, but responsive and alive. They travel unimpeded across billions of years, carrying pure information about their source. Unlike light, they are not absorbed or scattered by dust and gas. They arrive as direct messengers, telling us about events hidden behind veils of matter, about collisions too dark for light to escape. Gravitational wave astronomy is still in its infancy, but already it has revealed pairs of black holes, pairs of neutron stars, and perhaps even signs of more exotic objects. Each wave is like a drop of water carrying the memory of a stone that fell long ago, rippling outward until it touches the shore of our instruments. In listening to them, we are learning to hear the song of the universe itself. But the bending of space is not only written in waves, it is written in the arcs of galaxies and the slow drift of stars. Gravitational lensing, the bending of light by massive objects, turns the sky into a gallery of stretched and magnified shapes. When light from a distant galaxy passes by a closer cluster, the galaxy appears distorted into rings or arcs, delicate curves painted by space-time. These distortions are more than beautiful illusions, they are maps of invisible matter. By studying them, astronomers trace the distribution of dark matter, which outweighs visible matter 5-to-1. We cannot see dark matter directly, but we see how it bends space, how it tugs at galaxies, how it writes its presence into the curves of light. In this way, lensing is like seeing the flow of water around a hidden stone, revealing what lies beneath the surface. Dark matter itself is one of the most profound mysteries of bending space. It does not shine, reflect, or absorb light, yet it sculpts the structure of galaxies and clusters. Without it, galaxies would spin apart, unable to hold their stars. With it, the universe holds its shape, its filaments, its vast web of structure. Imagine a frozen pond dusted with snow. You cannot see the ice directly, but you see its strength in the way the snow rests on it, shaped and supported by what lies unseen beneath. Dark matter is the ice beneath the snow of stars, invisible yet essential, bending space in ways we can measure though we cannot touch. And wherever space bends, water-like, it whispers to us of hidden depths. Dark energy adds another dimension to this picture. While dark matter pulls inward, holding galaxies together, dark energy pushes outward, accelerating the expansion of the universe. If space is like water, then dark energy is like a hidden current, carrying everything outward faster and faster. It stretches the fabric beneath us, altering the flow of galaxies. The farther a galaxy is, the faster it recedes, not because it moves on its own, but because the space between us grows. In this way, the bending of space is not only a matter of curves around stars and galaxies, but also a matter of flow across the whole cosmos. Space is not still. It is a river that carries us with it, and dark energy is the current beneath its surface. The idea that space flows like water changes the way we think about motion itself. When you travel in a boat, you are carried not only by your own effort, but by the current. In the same way, galaxies are carried outward by the expansion of space. On small scales, gravity holds them together in clusters like eddies in a stream. But on the largest scales, expansion dominates, stretching the fabric itself. This expansion is not into anything, there is no outside. Just as the surface of a balloon stretches without needing space beyond, So the universe expands without needing an external frame. To live within it is to live inside the flow, unable to step outside and see it from afar, yet able to measure its effect in every direction. And still, the bending of space is not uniform. Like water flowing over rocks, it ripples and eddies around galaxies, black holes, and clusters. Each mass is a stone, shaping the currents of space-time. Each motion is guided not by force but by geometry, by the natural paths carved into the invisible surface beneath. The more we study these bends, the more we realize that we too are part of them. Our planet, our bodies, even the rhythm of our thoughts are bound within this bending. We are not apart from space-time, but woven into its folds, carried by its ripples. To say that space bends like water is to say that existence itself is fluid, that reality is shaped by invisible currents we cannot resist, only navigate. In this sense, every star, every orbit, every wave is part of a grand cosmic tide. To study it is not only to measure, but to wonder. Just as rivers carve valleys and oceans shape shores, the bending of space has carved the structures of galaxies, stars, and life itself. Without it, there would be no paths for planets, no homes for life, no stage for thought. The universe is not a rigid machine, but a flowing sea, and we are drops within it, carried by currents we can now begin to trace. This is both science and poetry, both calculation and reflection. It tells us not only how the cosmos moves, but also how we belong within it, always part of its bending, always part of its flow. As the vision of space bending like water deepens, we begin to see that this metaphor extends far beyond physics into the way we experience existence itself. Water is not only something we observe, it is something we feel, something that surrounds us and moves through us. In much the same way, space is not something we stand outside of and watch. It is the very medium of our being, shaping every breath and every heartbeat, even though we cannot touch it directly. To say that space bends is to say that reality itself is supple, molded by mass and energy, shaped by rhythms as subtle as waves in the ocean. We live not on the surface of this sea, but within it, immersed in its invisible tides, moved by its silent flow. Consider again the bending of light across billions of light years. Each photon that reaches our eyes carries the memory of its journey, bent by the gravity of stars, curved by galaxies, stretched by the expansion of space. When we look at the night sky, we are not seeing straight lines but curved paths, woven together by the great fabric of space-time. Every star, every galaxy, every faint glow in the distance has been shaped by the bending of the cosmos. And though our eyes cannot trace the curves directly, our instruments can, revealing arcs of light that whisper of the fluidity beneath. The universe is not a rigid lattice but a flowing sea, carrying light like driftwood, guiding its path with unseen currents. This bending shapes not only what we see but also what we know. The concept of distance itself becomes relative, changing with the curves of space. In ordinary life, a mile is always a mile, a kilometer always the same. But across cosmic scales, distance is not fixed. Light years stretch with the expansion of space, and the shortest path between 2 points is not always straight but curved. Like a river that winds through a valley, space guides the paths of all journeys. Even time, that steady flow we take for granted, bends along with it. Clocks near heavy masses run slower, and in the presence of strong gravity, the rhythm of seconds themselves changes. We live our lives within this bending, rarely noticing it, yet it defines every motion of the stars and every beat of time itself. Black holes remain the most dramatic expression of this truth. In their presence, space curves so steeply that no return is possible. They are like waterfalls in the cosmic sea, where the flow becomes so steep that everything is pulled beyond sight. Around them, space-time spirals, twisting light into circles, bending time into near stillness. To imagine falling into such a place is to imagine surrendering to the deepest current, carried beyond horizons where ordinary physics can no longer follow. Yet even here the metaphor of water holds. For just as rivers have hidden depths, black holes hold mysteries, their interiors concealed from all observation. They remind us that space, though pliant and knowable, still keeps secrets beyond our reach. But the bending of space is not only a matter of black holes or distant galaxies. It is part of the very ground we walk upon. Our planet orbits the sun along a curve in space-time, its path not forced but natural, the straightest possible line in a curved geometry. The moon orbits Earth for the same reason, drawn not by invisible strings but by the bent fabric beneath them. Every sunrise, every tide, every season is part of this fluid dance. Even the weight we feel pressing us to the ground is the result of curved space guiding us toward Earth's center. Gravity is not a pull from above, but a bend beneath our feet, shaping the rhythm of our days. We live within these bends as fish live within water, rarely aware of the medium that carries us, yet unable to exist without it. Gravitational waves bring this truth closer still. When massive stars collide, when neutron stars merge, when black holes spiral together, they send tremors across the cosmos. These waves ripple outward, crossing billions of years before they reach us, altering the distances between points in space as they pass. To detect them is to feel the universe breathe, to hear its hidden music carried in the trembling of space-time. Each wave tells a story, of stars that lived and died, of galaxies that evolved, of the deep currents that shape the cosmos. In listening to them, humanity has begun to hear not only light but soundless echoes, the quiet resonance of existence itself. If space bends like water, then perhaps we too bend within it, shaped by its flows. The structure of galaxies, the formation of stars, the birth of planets, and the rise of life all depend on this bending. Without curved space, stars could not form, planets could not orbit, and life could not exist. The same currents that guide galaxies also guide us, though we feel them only faintly. Our bodies, made of stardust, rest upon a planet held by curves, orbiting within a solar system that is itself carried along a galactic stream. The bending of space is not an abstract idea, but the quiet architecture of our existence. It is the stage, the script, and the rhythm of every moment. And yet, even as science explains these bends with clarity, the wonder remains. To picture spacetime as a sea is to recognize both its fluidity and its depth. We may never see the whole of it, never map every curve or trace every wave, yet we live within its embrace. It is not only a scientific truth, but a poetic one, reminding us that reality itself is softer than stone, more pliant than steel, more mysterious than emptiness. Like water, it holds both gentleness and power, both stillness and storm. To live within it is to be carried by currents we cannot resist, to float on waves that stretch from the smallest atoms to the farthest galaxies. As we reflect on this, we can see that the bending of space is also a lesson in perspective, just as rivers remind us that landscapes are shaped by time. So spacetime reminds us that existence is shaped by gravity, motion, and energy. The universe is not a rigid cage but a flowing sea, and we are drops within it, carried by its tides, inseparable from its motion. When we wonder about our place in the cosmos, we need not imagine ourselves separate from it. We are not boats upon the surface but part of the water itself, shaped by the same bends, moved by the same currents. To know this is to find both humility and belonging, to see ourselves not as outsiders, but as participants in the bending sea of space. And so, when we say that space bends like water, we are saying something more than metaphor. We are acknowledging a truth both scientific and poetic, that reality is fluid, that existence is curved, that all things move together within the same invisible sea. Every orbit, every wave, every curve of light is part of this flow. And as we listen to the ripples, as we watch the arcs of galaxies, as we trace the currents of time, we are reminded that we are not apart from the bending, but part of it, forever immersed in the quiet waters of space-time. On a clear night when the air is still and the lights of the city fade away, the horizon opens and reveals a sky scattered with stars. They appear countless, stretching in every direction, each one a silent spark in an ocean of dark. To gaze at them is to feel as though you stand on the edge of infinity, looking outward into a vastness that has no end. This endless horizon has always drawn our thoughts beyond the limits of Earth, inviting us to imagine what lies farther, what lies deeper, what lies forever out of reach. The stars are not only lights above us, they are messengers of distance and time, each carrying a story from billions of years ago, each whispering of the shape and size of the universe itself. Every star we see is both present and past. Its light travels for years, centuries, or millennia before reaching us, so when our eyes catch its glow, we are looking not at how it is now, but how it once was. Some of the stars we admire may already be gone, their lives ended in brilliant explosions, yet their light still moves toward us, crossing the ocean of space. In this way, the horizon of stars is also a horizon of memory, a record of time stretching backward as far as light can travel. To look up is to look into history, and the farther we see, the deeper that history becomes, until it approaches the dawn of creation itself. Astronomers measure these distances with a sense of awe. The nearest star beyond our sun is Proxima Centauri, just over 4 light-years away, which means the light we see left it 4 years ago. Others are tens, hundreds, or thousands of light-years distant. Our Milky Way galaxy contains hundreds of billions of such stars, spread across a disk more than 100,000 light-years wide. And beyond our galaxy lie countless others, each with billions of stars of their own. The endless horizon is not an illusion. It is real, stretching outward into a cosmos so vast that numbers lose meaning. To say that there are 2 trillion galaxies is to speak a truth almost impossible to grasp, a truth that makes the sky feel larger than any dream. This immensity leads us to ask, does the horizon of stars ever end? Is there a boundary, a final edge beyond which there are no more lights? Or does it continue forever, a horizon without limits? The observable universe, defined by the time light has had to travel since the Big Bang, does have a boundary. We can see about 46 billion light-years in every direction, not because space ends there, but because beyond that distance, light has not yet reached us. The true universe may be far larger, perhaps infinite, but our horizon is set by the speed of light and the age of time. It is as though we stand in a clearing, able to see only so far through the mist, while beyond it the forest continues unseen. The horizon of stars, then, is not only vast but also unfinished, a mystery stretching beyond the reach of sight. Within this horizon lies beauty on every scale. There are stars so massive that they burn with blinding brightness, living only millions of years before collapsing in fire. There are stars so small and dim that they linger for trillions of years, glowing softly like embers. There are giants red and swollen, dwarfs faint and cool, and exotic remnants like neutron stars and white dwarfs, each one a unique expression of stellar life. Together they weave a tapestry across the sky, no 2 alike, yet all bound by the same laws of physics, the same cycles of birth and death. The horizon is endless not only in distance but in variety, a gallery of light painted across the canvas of space. And within that gallery are hidden stories of connection. Each star is a furnace, fusing hydrogen into helium, helium into heavier elements, building the atoms that later form planets, oceans, and living beings. The carbon in our bodies, the oxygen in our breath, the calcium in our bones, all were forged in the cores of ancient stars, carried outward in supernova explosions, scattered across space until they gathered again into new stars and new worlds. When we look at the horizon of stars, we are looking at the sources of our own existence. The endlessness is not just outward but inward, a reminder that we are made of the same light we see, that the universe is not separate from us but written into every cell. Yet the horizon also carries silence. Between the stars lies vast emptiness, cold and dark, where distances stretch so far that even light takes millions of years to cross. This darkness is part of the horizon too, reminding us that endlessness is not only about fullness but also about emptiness. The stars are scattered across a sea of dark energy and dark matter, the invisible scaffolding of the cosmos. Their beauty is all the greater because it shines against this background, small lights in infinite shadow. To gaze at them is to see not only brilliance but contrast, not only presence but absence, woven together into the whole fabric of existence. The endless horizon has inspired myth and poetry as much as science. Ancient people saw constellations, weaving stories of gods, heroes, and creatures into the patterns of stars. Navigators used them to guide ships across oceans, trusting their positions as maps of the heavens. Philosophers wondered if the stars were fixed points on a great dome or if they stretched outward into infinity. Each culture found meaning in the horizon. Each gaze carried both curiosity and reverence. Today, with telescopes and equations, we can measure more than ever, but the wonder remains the same. The horizon of stars still invites us to dream, to imagine what lies beyond, to feel both small and infinite at once. When we look up, we see the stars arranged on a dome above us, but we know this dome is an illusion of perspective. The stars are not fixed in a sphere, but scattered across 3 dimensions, each at its own distance, each shining from its own place in space. The dome is a trick of the eye, a reminder that our horizon is shaped not only by reality, but also by perception. To truly see the horizon is to imagine depth, to picture stars layered across billions of light years, each one a lighthouse shining from its own shore. The horizon is not flat but deep, a well of distance that stretches until thought itself grows quiet, humbled by the scale. And in that quiet, the endless horizon offers something more than knowledge. It offers peace. To know that the universe is so vast, that the stars are so many, that time is so deep, is to feel our own troubles soften. We are small, yet we are part of something immeasurable. We are brief, yet we are carried within a story that spans billions of years. To stand beneath the horizon of stars is to feel at once fragile and eternal, fleeting and infinite. The horizon does not end because it is not only a boundary of space. It is a boundary of wonder, always beyond, always calling us farther into thought, deeper into imagination, closer to the heart of existence itself. The deeper we wander into the horizon of stars, the more it reveals that distance and time are bound together in one endless fabric. To look farther is not only to see more space, but also to step back into earlier eras of the cosmos. Every star is a time capsule, every galaxy a letter written long ago. The light we receive from the Andromeda Galaxy, the great spiral neighbor to our own, began its journey more than 2 million years ago, when the first humans had not yet walked the Earth. The galaxies we glimpse at the edge of visibility, captured by the most powerful telescopes, began shining when the universe was only a fraction of its current age. To look across the horizon is to look into childhood, youth, and ancient ages of the universe, all layered upon one another like rings in a tree. It is not just a horizon of stars, but a horizon of time itself, carrying us backward even as we gaze outward. Astronomers trace this horizon using tools of precision, but behind the numbers lies wonder. By measuring redshift, the stretching of light into longer wavelengths as space expands, they can estimate how fast a galaxy recedes and thus how far away it is. Each measurement is a step into distance, a step into the past. The most distant galaxies we can see today appear as faint smudges, yet they hold immense meaning, for they show us how the universe looked in its earliest days. They are like whispers from the beginning, fragile signals stretched thin by time and space, yet still reaching us across billions of years. These faint galaxies remind us that the horizon is not static but always changing, expanding as light continues to travel, revealing more of the cosmic story with every passing year. Within this horizon lies the great web of structure. Galaxies are not scattered at random, but connected by filaments of dark matter, forming patterns that stretch across hundreds of millions of light years. These filaments meet in clusters, where thousands of galaxies gather like cities along a cosmic river. The emptiness between them is vast, yet the connections remain invisible bridges shaped by gravity. To map this structure is to see the skeleton of the universe, a web that holds stars and galaxies together. And when we look at it, we realize that the horizon of stars is not only a scattering of lights, but a grand design, woven into patterns too large for the eye to see all at once. It is like looking at a forest from within, seeing trunks and leaves, while knowing that the true shape of the forest is only revealed when one steps far back. The horizon also speaks of cycles. Stars are not eternal, they are born, they live, and they die. Within the endless horizon, every stage is present. Nebulae glow with the birth of new stars, vast clouds of gas collapsing under gravity ignited by nuclear fire. Mature stars shine steadily, sustaining planets and life. Old stars swell into red giants, shedding their layers into space. And some end in explosions, scattering heavy elements across the cosmos. Each stage contributes to the whole, each death seeding new life, each beginning dependent on what came before. The horizon is endless not because it holds unchanging stars, but because it holds this eternal cycle, repeated on scales of billions of years, a rhythm of creation and dissolution that writes the poetry of the cosmos. In this endlessness lies a paradox. The universe we see is both vast and limited. Our horizon is set by the age of the cosmos, yet within that limit lies more than we can comprehend. We know there are trillions of stars, billions of galaxies, yet each number is too large for the human mind to truly hold. When we try to imagine them, they blur into abstraction, a field of light too great to count. And yet when we look up, what we see are individual stars, each one clear, each one personal. The horizon overwhelms with its immensity, but it also comforts with its intimacy. For in the end, no matter how endless it is, we can always look at a single star and feel its light reach us across the gulf, a connection between one world and another. This horizon has also become a stage for exploration. Telescopes like Hubble and James Webb push our vision farther, capturing galaxies from the dawn of time. They reveal colors, shapes, and details invisible to the naked eye, transforming faint smudges into spirals, clusters, and arcs. Each new image deepens the horizon, showing us that what once seemed empty is full of countless lights. And with each discovery comes a reminder: the horizon is not fixed. As instruments improve, as technology grows, our horizon expands. There will always be more stars to see, more galaxies to uncover, more distances to measure. The horizon is endless not only in reality but in potential, always stretching as curiosity carries us farther. And yet the horizon is not only scientific, it is also deeply personal. For to look at the stars is to feel something that words struggle to capture. The endlessness touches something within us, something ancient and quiet. It reminds us that we are part of a story larger than ourselves, that our lives, though brief, are written into the same cosmos that holds the stars. Children look at the sky and dream of distant worlds. Poets write of love compared to the stars. Philosophers wonder about infinity. The horizon speaks to all of us, across time and culture, inviting us into the same silence, the same wonder. It is not only endless space but endless meaning, reflecting back whatever questions we bring to it. If we let our imagination drift, we might picture walking to the edge of this horizon. What would we find there? Would the stars simply continue stretching into infinity? Would we see the faint glow of the cosmic microwave background, the last light of the Big Bang? Would we encounter new laws of physics, new shapes of space, new realities beyond our own? We do not know, and perhaps we never will. The horizon is both invitation and barrier, showing us enough to inspire, withholding enough to remain mysterious. It is endless not because we can measure it all, but because it always lies just beyond what we can reach. In this way, the horizon of stars is more than astronomy. It is a reflection of our relationship with the unknown. We are drawn to it because it represents both knowledge and mystery, both what we can see and what we cannot. It humbles us with its immensity and uplifts us with its beauty. To gaze at it is to be reminded that life itself is part of this horizon, fleeting yet eternal, fragile yet infinite. We do not need to cross it to know its meaning. We need only to look, to wonder, to let its endlessness shape the quiet of our thoughts. The horizon of stars has a way of guiding us home even as it invites us outward, when you stand beneath it. And breathe slowly, the air feels cool and the mind grows quiet like a lake at dusk. The far lights do not hurry you, they do not demand an answer. They wait with a gentle patience, as if the universe has time for you, as if it is fine to let one thought rise and then float away like a light leaf on dark water. In that calm, a simple truth appears. The endless horizon is not a puzzle to be solved in one night. It is a steady companion. It asks you to look, to listen, and to rest inside a larger sense of time. It asks you to feel the old comfort that comes from knowing you do not need to hold everything at once. You can let the sky carry part of it for you. The stars have been carrying weight like this for a very long time. When we listen, we remember how starlight travels. A photon begins deep in a star's core, born in heat and pressure beyond easy words. It drifts outward through crowded layers, bouncing and scattering for ages. Only when it reaches the surface does it fly free into space. Then it crosses the dark for years and centuries, passing dust, passing the thin fog between stars, passing the wide gaps between galaxies. At last it reaches an eye, a mirror, or a camera, and its long journey ends in a tiny spark. You lift your face and that small messenger meets you. In that moment there is a bridge between places that will never touch. A thread of light ties your world to a distant sun. The horizon is made of these threads, countless and quiet, stretched across time. To see even one is to feel the size of the story you stand inside. In the gentle hush of night, it is easy to forget that every star has a life. We see them as steady points, but inside them matter changes form, step by step, breath by breath. Hydrogen becomes helium. Later, in some stars, helium grows into carbon and oxygen. The work is slow, but the light is constant. Some stars live fast and end in great fire, shaking their neighborhoods and sending waves across space. Others last long and warm their planets for billions of years. The horizon, when you look with patient eyes, shows all of these lives at once. The bright youth, the calm middle age, the soft embers of an ending. It is like a book open to many chapters at the same time. You cannot read them all in one night, but you can feel the shape of the tale. If you let your thoughts drift farther, you can almost sense the fabric that holds the stars in place. Space is not an empty frame. It is a field that shapes and is shaped. It bows a little around each mass. It stretches with the flow of expansion. It carries light on its dark rivers. The horizon is the edge of what light has had time to cross. There is no hard wall there, only a limit made by the age of the journey. Beyond it, the story continues whether we see it or not. This knowledge is humbling and kind. It says we live inside something larger than our maps. It says we can trust that more exists than we can measure today. It says the unknown is not a failure. It is an honest part of the world. There is comfort in thinking of the horizon as a companion. It has watched Earth since before our kind had words. It watched when the first eyes in ancient seas caught the first sparks. It watched when hands learned fire, when songs rose by small flames, when people drew hunters and rivers across cave walls. It watched when we laid out simple star maps and told children stories about bears, swans, and flowing paths. The sky did not correct our early charts. It did not laugh at our guesses. It simply held us while we learned, the way a calm teacher holds a room. In that long patience is a lesson about growth. We can be gentle with ourselves as we change our minds. The horizon allows room for that. In the modern night, our tools reach beyond our eyes. We place mirrors above the air. We cool detectors until they can taste heat that has traveled since the first dawn. We open windows to kinds of light our skin cannot feel. Infrared like warm embers, radio waves as long as hills, ultraviolet just beyond blue, X-rays sharp as needles. Each window shows a different horizon, another layer of the same sky. A cloud that looks dark, invisible light can glow in the infrared. A quiet patch can sing at radio lengths. A star that seems steady can pulse when seen in a faster color. With each added view, the sky becomes more than a picture. It becomes a song with many notes, a woven cloth with many threads. You do not need to memorize the pattern. It is enough to hear that the music is richer than one tune. With each color we add, we meet new questions. We find worlds circling other suns by watching tiny dips in their starlight. We measure the small wobble of a star when a planet tugs on it. We look for thin traces of air around far orbs and ask what those airs might hold. Could there be water there? Could there be clouds? Could there be the quiet balance that lets life take root and stay? The horizon becomes a field of possible homes, some. Worlds are too close and hot, some too far and cold. Some may have oceans. Some may carry simple air and rock, nothing more. It is a soft and human thing to care about these places. We do not know their faces, but still we care. We care because caring is part of being alive under a wide sky. Care is the right word for the way the horizon teaches us. We care for what we watch with patience. We care for what we learn to name. We care for what helps us feel small without fear. The stars teach this. They do not shout their lessons. They whisper and repeat. They show up again when the clouds are gone. They reward the person who returns, who sits out, who lets their eyes adjust, who learns the slow pace of night vision and the long speed of the sky. In their company, we practice a gentle courage, the kind that faces the vast without breaking, the kind that says, I can stay here and breathe even when I cannot hold it all. This courage is simple and strong. It does not rush. It does not step on others. It moves like light, steady, and quiet. Sometimes the horizon teaches by absence. There are patches where nothing seems to shine, where the eye meets only dark. When long exposures stack, even those places fill with points, galaxies so faint and far that their glow lies at the edge of what a lens can know. The lesson is clear. What looks empty is often full beyond measure. This lesson walks back into life. A pause can hold more meaning than a rush. A silence can carry more truth than a shout. The gaps between stars are not failures. They are part of the pattern. They let the lights be seen. They give the picture breath. You can let gaps do that in your day. You can set a small space between tasks and let your thoughts rest like a field in winter. Another lesson comes from the way stars move together. In the dark, there is a slow dance guided by a patient hand. Groups of stars circle a common center. Great clusters gather like towns, each star a house, each orbit a path worn by time. Thin threads stretch between these towns, long lanes of matter where future galaxies will grow. Even at the largest scales we can trace, the universe holds to simple rules. Matter gathers, light travels, space expands. The horizon is a map of those rules in motion. When you look at it with this in mind, worry loses some of its sharp edge. You see that there is order without force, growth without hurry. You see that gentle laws can shape a world. The horizon also invites a softer view of fate. People often ask how the story will end. Will stars fade one by one over ages so long that counting them would tire the mind? Will the push that speeds expansion stay steady or rise, widening the gulf between galaxies faster and faster? Could there be turns we have not guessed yet, changes that will make us learn new words and write new rules? These thoughts can feel heavy, but the horizon helps. It says that an end is far beyond any dawn we will know. It says that our task is not to carry the last page tonight. Our task is this: to keep a kind watch, to learn a little more, to share what we learn, to leave better maps and cleaner skies for the ones who will come after. In the meantime, the horizon gives us work that is gentle and good. We can shield the night from careless glare so more people can see the Milky Way arc over their homes. We can teach children the simple names of bright stars and let them point with small hands and say those names out loud. We can sit together in a field and share a blanket while a meteor draws a silver line and a satellite glides in steady pace. We can bring back the simple act of looking up. This work needs no grand speech. It needs no rush. It asks for a light touch and a steady plan. It asks for towns that dim lights after a certain hour, for fixtures that aim down, for signs that glow softly. It asks us to remember that darkness is not a problem to erase, but a home for light to be seen. When you stand there long enough, a steady truth settles over you. The horizon is endless, but it is not cold. It is vast, but it is not empty of care. It holds our world the way the sea holds a boat, by giving it room to float and a rhythm to ride. The stars do not answer every question. They do something kinder. They make the questions beautiful. They slow the breath. They spread thoughts out like the lights above, each thought a small star in a wider calm. In that calm, your own life finds a right size. Not small in a mean way, small in a true way, small like a seed that knows the ground is wide and takes its time to grow. At last, when dawn pales the east, the stars thin and the horizon softens into morning. The lights do not go away. Their glow is simply veiled by day. The lesson does not go either. It travels with you into the hours of work and talk and care. You carry the memory of wide space, of long time, of gentle order. You carry the sense that you belong to something that does not rush and does not break that hall. DS each thing in place without strain. If worry rises, you can recall the arch of the Milky Way and let your chest rise and fall in that same slow curve. If noise grows, you can picture a quiet patch of sky and remember that the dark between lights is part of how the picture breathes. So the endless horizon of stars comes to a soft close for now. It does not end with an answer. It ends with a way of seeing. It asks you to move in gentle curves, to give room to others, to shine without shouting, to keep steady in the dark. It reminds you that you are made of star-born atoms and carried by star-bent space, and that your brief life can echo the patience of light. When night returns, you can step outside and lift your eyes. The horizon will be there, unchanged and yet new, waiting with the same quiet welcome. It will hold your questions without fear. It will hold your hopes without hurry. And when you are ready, it will guide you back to that calm place where wonder and peace meet, and where the long story of the sky keeps turning one clear page at a time. When most people think of nothing, they imagine emptiness, a blank void where no substance exists, a silence so complete that it holds neither air nor light. Yet in physics, nothing is never truly empty. The geometry of nothingness is more mysterious than a vacant space. It is a fabric woven from hidden energies, from quantum whispers that never cease. What seems like silence is alive with flickers, tiny fluctuations of particles that appear and vanish, a restless hum beneath the stillness. To explore the shape of this nothing is to explore the foundation of everything. For all forms, all stars, all galaxies emerge from this strange stage of near-invisible structure. In daily life, we treat space as an empty container. A room without furniture is bare, the air between trees is open, the sky between clouds is blank. But science reveals that even when all matter is gone, space remains. It is not a true nothing but a field with rules, capable of stretching, bending, and flowing. Einstein's relativity showed us that space and time form a unified fabric, and that fabric can curve under the weight of matter and energy. The geometry of nothingness, then, is not absence but pliability, a stage that shapes and is shaped. When you imagine nothing, picture instead an invisible cloth, soft yet strong, bending with every star, vibrating with every quantum tremor, expanding with every tick of time. Quantum physics takes this further, showing that the vacuum itself is never still. Particles of matter and antimatter spark into existence, collide, and vanish in moments too brief to measure. These fleeting presences fill space with a restless shimmer. Physicists call it vacuum energy, and it means that nothingness is always alive, always moving. The very act of measuring reveals the fluctuations, for they shape the behavior of particles, shifting their energy slightly, altering their dance. This geometry of nothing is not barren but dynamic, like a surface of water quivering with ripples too small for the eye to see. It is in these ripples that the seeds of galaxies may once have been planted. When the universe was young, it was filled with such fluctuations. During the brief moment of cosmic inflation, those fluctuations were stretched across vast scales, frozen into the fabric of space. They became the tiny irregularities that later grew into clusters of galaxies, stars, and planets. In this way, the geometry of nothingness became the architecture of everything. What appears to be emptiness is actually a wellspring of potential, a hidden richness that allows form to emerge. To sit with this truth is to realize that emptiness is never wasted, that even silence carries the power to give birth to worlds. At larger scales, the geometry of nothing becomes visible in the way space expands. Galaxies drift apart not because they move on their own, but because the fabric beneath them stretches. This expansion is driven not by matter but by the energy of space itself, the dark energy that fills the vacuum. It is as if nothingness has weight, as if the void pushes outward with a steady hand. This discovery was startling, for it means the universe is not simply coasting after the Big Bang but accelerating, driven by the quiet power of emptiness. The geometry of nothingness is not passive. It is active, shaping the fate of the cosmos, carrying galaxies away from one another with increasing speed. Even in regions stripped bare of matter, space carries properties. It carries dimensions, length, width, depth, and the flow of time that persist whether or not any star illuminates them. A photon crossing the void still travels along this structure. A clock carried through the emptiness still ticks. Nothing is not the absence of framework, it is the framework itself, like the silence in music that holds the notes together or the blank canvas that allows paint to be seen. Nothingness give. Meaning to presence by being the stage upon which presence appears. Without the geometry of nothingness, there would be no context for matter, no room for light, no stage for existence. To think of nothing in this way is to challenge imagination. Our minds cling to substance, to things we can touch and measure. But the universe insists that the foundation is subtler. Nothing is not absence but relation, not emptiness but potential. The vacuum holds energy, the void holds geometry, the silence holds rhythm. It is the hidden design beneath all designs, the soft paper upon which the stars are drawn. To meditate on this is to feel that even our own lives rest on such a stage. In our pauses, in our silences, in the spaces between thoughts, there is a geometry too. We are not only creatures of action and word, we are also creatures of stillness, of the quiet that shapes what follows. The geometry of nothingness also appears in black holes, those regions where space curves inward so steeply that nothing escapes. Inside them, matter collapses toward a singularity, a point where the known rules of geometry dissolve. There, the distinction between presence and absence breaks down. The surface of a black hole, the event horizon, is a boundary not of matter but of information. Cross it, and return is impossible. Here the fabric of space shows both its strength and its fragility, strong enough to bend light itself, fragile enough to break under its own equations. In such places, the geometry of nothing becomes the geometry of paradox, a reminder that emptiness is never simple. And beyond all this lies the mystery of why the vacuum has the energy it does. If it were slightly different, the universe might never have formed galaxies, stars, or life. Too much energy and expansion would have torn matter apart before it could gather. Too little, and the universe might have collapsed back upon itself. The balance we find is delicate, as though the geometry of nothing were tuned to allow something to emerge. Scientists puzzle over this balance, and some imagine multiple universes, each with its own version of nothingness, some too empty, some too heavy, only ours balanced in a way that nurtures life. Whether or not this is true, it reveals a poetic truth, that even nothing is shaped by quiet laws, and those laws cradle everything we know. As you sit beneath the sky and picture this, imagine not only the stars but the space between them. The darkness is not void but a living field, humming with energy, stretching with time, bending with mass, alive with hidden ripples. The geometry of nothingness is not frightening, it is generous. It gives room for galaxies to grow, it gives rhythm to time, it gives context to thought. It shows that what seems empty can hold the deepest truths. In silence there is music, in stillness there is motion. In nothing there is everything, waiting with patience for eyes to see. To drift further into the thought of nothingness is to step into a strange and quiet realm where familiar words lose their certainty. What does it mean for a place to be empty when even emptiness has weight? What does it mean for silence to reign when silence itself hums with hidden energy? The vacuum is not absence but stage, not barren but fertile. Physicists have learned that when they strip matter away, when they cool regions close to absolute zero, when they remove all detectable fields, something always remains. Virtual particles flicker, quantum foam ripples, energy never falls fully to rest. This is not an imperfection of instruments, but the very nature of reality. Even nothing has geometry, and geometry never lies still. Quantum field theory describes this restless emptiness as a seething sea. Every point in space holds fields, and even in their lowest energy states they fluctuate, bubbling with momentary pairs of particles. They rise, they fall, they cancel, they return, and all of it happens everywhere always. This quantum vacuum is like a hidden fabric, invisible yet present, subtle yet powerful. Out of it arise effects we can measure, like the Casimir force, where two plates placed close in a vacuum are pushed together by fluctuations of the empty space between them. Even without air, even without light, the vacuum presses. This is the geometry of nothing acting upon matter, a reminder that absence is never without influence. On cosmic scales, this restless nothingness becomes the driver of destiny. Dark energy, thought to be the energy of the vacuum itself, fills all of space. Its pressure pushes galaxies apart, accelerating expansion, changing the fate of the universe. Without it, gravity alone might have slowed expansion, perhaps even reversed it into collapse. With it, expansion grows faster, stretching horizons ever outward, leaving galaxies to fade from one another's sight. The geometry of nothingness, invisible to our senses, is shaping the very story of everything, writing the end of the univ. Our récit with the same quiet hand that wrote its beginning. The stars we see today will someday drift beyond our reach, carried away by the silent strength of emptiness. Yet nothingness is not without structure. It can curve, it can stretch, it can ripple. In relativity, even a vacuum is shaped by the presence of energy, and energy is never absent. Gravitational waves passing through the emptiness are not hindered by it. They use the vacuum itself as their medium, their ripples spreading outward with infinite patience. In this way, nothingness is not a barrier but a channel, not silence but resonance. To imagine this is to picture a dark hall where no sound exists, yet the hall itself trembles with echoes when touched. The universe is such a hall, always trembling faintly, its emptiness alive with the memory of all that has passed. There is a paradox here, one that stretches imagination. If nothing is never truly nothing, then perhaps nothing does not exist at all. Perhaps what we call nothingness is only another kind of something, too subtle for eyes, too gentle for hands. This idea challenges language, for words like void, vacuum, and emptiness suggest absence, yet science shows presence. The geometry of nothingness is like a quiet river beneath snow, unseen, unheard, but always flowing, always shaping. To meditate on this paradox is to see that the very ground of reality is not solidity but possibility, not matter but the stage upon which matter arises. We are not born from stone but from silence, not from substance alone, but from the trembling geometry of what seems to be nothing at all. This subtle presence of nothingness touches every level of existence. Without quantum fluctuations, atoms would not behave as they do, chemistry would not unfold, life would not rise. Without dark energy, galaxies would not follow their paths, the future of the cosmos would not be written as it is. Even thought, even time unfolds within the structure of this stage. We often imagine nothing as a blank white page, yet the page itself has texture, grain, and weight. In art, the canvas is never irrelevant. It guides the strokes of paint, the flow of ink. In the universe, emptiness is the canvas, and it guides the brush of light and matter. To honor it is to acknowledge that even what we cannot see holds beauty. And so, when astronomers gaze into the depths of space, they are not only searching for stars and galaxies. They are measuring the darkness between them, the faint glow of the cosmic microwave background, the whispers of expansion, the traces of fluctuations. In this dark, they find the fingerprints of the early universe, the echoes of inflation, the balance of dark energy. They find that nothingness carries memory, that it holds the record of beginnings and the script of endings. It is a geometry that stores time as well as space, a design that links the smallest particle to the largest scale. To look into the void is not to stare at absence, but to read the book of existence written in invisible ink. If we let our thoughts drift more softly, we can see how this truth mirrors our lives. The pauses between breaths, the silences between words, the quiet hours between days, all of these are our own forms of nothingness. And yet they are not empty. They are full of renewal, of reflection, of unseen growth. Just as the vacuum holds quantum seeds that blossom into galaxies, our silences hold seeds of thought, of change, of meaning. The geometry of nothingness is not foreign to us. It is within us, part of how we live and how we grow. In this way, science and spirit converge, both whispering that emptiness is not to be feared but to be honored, for it is the hidden shape that carries all forms. In the quiet geometry of nothing, we find a kind of peace. To know that space itself is alive, that emptiness itself is rich, is to know that absence is not the end. It is the beginning, the middle, and the end woven together. It is the field that gives rise to every star, every thought, every breath. When you look at the night sky, do not see the dark as barren. See it as the stage upon which light shines, as the ocean in which galaxies swim, as the geometry of nothingness that makes everything possible. In that seeing, you may find both wonder and rest, a calm recognition that even in silence, the universe sings. To bring the journey of nothingness toward its soft close, we must return to the simple truth that absence is never truly empty. The spaces between stars, the darkness between galaxies, the quiet between thoughts all hold structure, rhythm, and presence. This is the paradox that lies at the heart of the cosmos. The void is full. The geometry of nothingness is not cold vacancy, but a living framework, a stage where the play of existence unfolds. It bends with mass, it trembles with energy, it stretches with time. To imagine the universe without it is impossible, for it is the very canvas on which the story is writ. And when we say nothing, we are really speaking of the deepest something, the most subtle field, the unseen lattice that allows all else to be. At cosmic scales, this geometry shapes fate. The quiet push of dark energy, perhaps the very breath of the vacuum, determines whether galaxies will drift away forever or whether they may someday return. Already its influence is visible, pulling galaxies apart, stretching the universe faster than gravity can gather it back. One day, distant galaxies may slip beyond our cosmic horizon, fading from view, leaving only the stars of our local group to keep one another company. This future is not a tale of destruction, but of unfolding, a reminder that even nothing has a direction, a momentum. The end is written not in fire but in silence, not in violence but in expansion, the quiet geometry of emptiness carrying everything outward. But emptiness is not only vast, it is intimate. Inside every atom, in the spaces between nucleus and electron, most of what we call matter is void. Our bodies, our homes, our world are composed of more nothing than substance, yet that nothing carries the shape that holds us together. Without the geometry of emptiness, atoms would collapse, matter would lose form, life could not exist. Nothingness is not outside of us but within us, folded into the very particles that compose our being. Each breath we take is framed by the geometry of absence as much as by the presence of air. In this way, to understand the void is to understand ourselves, to see that what we call empty is part of what we are. The poetry of nothingness lies also in its silence. When you stand beneath the stars, it is easy to be drawn to the lights, to the galaxies that shine across space. Yet the darkness between them is just as real, just as important. It is the stage that lets the stars be seen, the stillness that lets the light speak. Without the dark, there would be no contrast, no meaning, no beauty. The geometry of nothingness is not only a physical truth, but an aesthetic one, showing that presence and absence belong together, that light and dark are not enemies, but partners in the same dance. To look at the night sky is to see this union, to see how nothing and something weave into one whole. Science shows us that nothing is fertile, yet the heart feels this truth even without equations. The quiet spaces of our own lives are not empty, they are places where meaning forms. In the pause between words, we understand their weight. In the silence between notes, music finds its depth. In the stillness between days, we recover, reflect, and grow. The geometry of nothingness is mirrored in our minds, in our hearts, in the rhythms of living. Just as the vacuum holds the seeds of galaxies, our pauses hold the seeds of thought. We are not separate from this cosmic geometry. We are made in its likeness, woven of its silence, shaped by its quiet abundance. To wonder at this is to see that even the unknown is generous. We may never know why the vacuum has the energy it does, why its balance allows stars to shine, why its rules permit life. We may never see beyond the boundaries of our horizon, never touch the singularities hidden in black holes, yet the mystery itself is a gift. It reminds us that not all must be solved, that wonder has a place alongside knowledge, that peace can live within questions. The geometry of nothingness gives us this, the chance to rest in the unknown, to breathe in the silence, to accept that absence can be as full as presence. In this way, science and poetry meet, both bowing before the quiet stage upon which all plays are performed. So when you look at the night sky, do not fear the darkness. See it as the fabric of everything, the geometry of nothingness holding stars in place, guiding galaxies on their paths, carrying light across the ages. See it as the canvas of your own life, the silence that gives meaning to sound, the pause that gives strength to movement, the rest that gives power to action. Nothing is never truly nothing. It is always something, always alive, always shaping. And in its geometry lies a lesson, that we too can find strength in silence, patience in absence, and beauty in what seems to be void. The story of nothingness ends not with an answer, but with a vision of space alive with unseen energy, of galaxies carried outward by an invisible tide, of silence that sings in its own way. A vision of emptiness not as loss but as gift, not as lack but as possibility. It is a reminder that the universe is larger than words, richer than definitions, and softer than fear. To rest in its geometry is to rest in the truth that we are carried always by something deeper than we can see. It is to trust that even nothing holds us, shapes us, and gives us room to be. And so the geometry of nothingness is not the end of the story. It is its foundation, quiet and infinite, waiting for us to notice and to breathe within its embrace. When you look up at the night sky, the stars appear as points scattered at random, like grains of sand tossed across a dark floor. But hidden within their brightness are patterns of circles, curves that shape the universe itself. Light, though it seems straight, often travels in arcs, guided by the bends of space, the pull of gravity, and the deep geometry of time. These circles are not drawn with ink or stone, but with photons that have journeyed for billions of years, curving, looping, and spiraling in the silence of space. To study them is to discover that the cosmos is a vast calligraphy, a script written not with letters but with orbits, rings, and arcs of glowing matter, all traced in the delicate strokes of light. The simplest of these circles are the orbits of planets. Earth loops around the sun in a graceful path year after year, a curve so steady we have built our calendars upon it. The moon circles Earth, shaping tides and time. Every planet, every moon, every comet moves along paths bent by gravity, arcs that repeat in cycles so regular that they become the measure of our days. Yet these orbits are more than convenience. They are the visible signatures of invisible curves in space. According to Einstein, the planets do not circle because they are pulled by an invisible force, but because space itself is bent by the sun's mass. Their orbits are circles written in the very fabric of the cosmos, endless reminders that motion and geometry are one. Stars themselves form circles too, though at scales so vast we cannot see them directly. In the spiral arms of galaxies, stars trace arcs that sweep outward, forming great whorls of light. These spirals are not static images but living patterns, shaped by gravity and time, turning slowly over hundreds of millions of years. When we see the Milky Way stretching across the sky, we are looking into such a circle, standing inside the curve of our own galaxy. Beyond, other galaxies spin, each a luminous wheel in the dark, each a circle written in light across billions of light years. To imagine them all at once is to see the cosmos as a vast wheelwork, each spoke and ring moving in harmony, each circle part of the whole. But perhaps the most striking circles are those created by light itself when bent by gravity. When light from a distant galaxy passes near a massive cluster, its path curves, and to our eyes it forms arcs and rings. These are called Einstein rings, halos of brightness formed by the geometry of space. They are rare and delicate, but when they appear, they reveal both beauty and truth. They show us that light is not immune to gravity, that space itself is pliant, that the universe is capable of drawing perfect circles without pen or hand. To look at one through a telescope is to see not only a distant galaxy, but the invisible curve of space made visible, a circle written by light across the page of the cosmos. Even black holes, the most mysterious of objects, write circles of light. Around them, gravity bends space so steeply that photons can be caught in orbit, circling again and again near the edge of no return. These photon spheres are rings of pure light trapped on endless paths around darkness. To us they appear as glowing outlines, shadows edged by fire, the shape of nothingness revealed by circles of radiance. The first image of a black hole captured in 2019 showed such a ring, a circle written not by matter but by bent light itself. It was more than a picture. It was proof that geometry and gravity, light and space, weave together in ways both beautiful and profound. On Earth, we too see circles of light written by the sky. The halo around the moon on a frosty night, the rings around the sun formed by ice crystals, the arcs of rainbows born of water and sunlight, all are echoes of this universal language. They remind us that circles are not only cosmic but intimate, present in the world we touch. From the orbit of electrons to the paths of moons, from the spirals of galaxies to the arcs of rainbows, circles appear everywhere, as if the universe itself favors them, as if geometry has chosen the curve as its most perfect form. In these curves, we find both repetition and renewal, cycles that reassure us that even in change there is pattern. The poetry of circles lies in their completeness. A line has a beginning and an end, but a circle returns to itself, carrying the sense of eternity. In nature, circles are signs of continuity, the seasons that loop each year, the phases of the moon, the cycles of birth and death. In physics, circles embody balance, the steady paths of orbiting worlds, the symmetry of fields, the repeating waves of radiation. In thought, circles remind us that all journeys bring us back to where we began, though never unchanged. To see circles in light is to see the universe remind us, again and again, that nothing truly ends, that every path is part of a cycle, that every story is written in arcs. And so, th. The endless sky is filled with such writing. Each orbit is a line drawn by time, each galaxy a spiral traced across the night, each lensing arc a signature of gravity. Together, they compose a script too vast to read in one glance, but not too vast to feel. When you stand beneath the stars, you are standing within this cosmic calligraphy, surrounded by circles written in light. They are not there for us alone, but we are here to witness them, to read their curves, to carry their quiet meanings into our own lives. They tell us that the universe moves in cycles, that beauty lies in balance, that even darkness can be edged with light. In their curves, we find the shape of existence itself, soft and eternal, turning forever under the quiet hand of the cosmos. If you watch a drop of water fall into a still pond, you see circles race outward, one after another, each ring a soft echo of the first touch. Light behaves in a similar way. When a tiny source shines, light spreads out in waves that form growing spheres in 3 dimensions and growing circles when they meet a surface. We do not see these circles with our eyes in open air because light moves too fast and the waves are too close together. But the shape is there, a quiet pattern underneath what looks like simple brightness. Every lamp at night sends out round fronts of light. Every candle glows with gentle shells expanding into the room. The world is full of circles we cannot see, and yet those circles guide how shadows form, how edges look sharp or soft, and how our cameras catch a scene. You can see some of these hidden circles when light meets thin layers. A soap bubble shows round bands of color that shift when the bubble moves. Oil on a wet street makes pools that shine with rings that look like little rainbows. These circles come from a simple idea: waves can add or cancel each other. Where the light waves line up, the color grows bright. Where they arrive out of step, it grows dim. The bubble's skin is thin enough that part of the light reflects from the top surface and part from the bottom. The two reflections meet again in your eye. In some places, they add and make bright bands. In others, they cancel and make dark ones. Because the bubble is round, the places of equal thickness are round too, so we see circles written in color across a fragile film. A similar pattern appears when a smooth glass lens is pressed lightly on a flat plate. A thin air layer remains between them, thicker near the edge and thinnest near the center. Under gentle light, rings of bright and dark grow around a central spot. These are called Newton's rings, and they are one more proof that light draws circles when it interferes with itself. Even if you never test glass in this way, you meet the same rule in the shimmer on bird feathers or the shine on a butterfly's wing. Tiny layers in their surfaces fool light into forming bands and rings. Nature writes with light the way a child might draw with chalk, using repetition and soft curves to make the picture glow. Circles also appear whenever we try to make a point of light look sharp. If you aim a camera or a telescope at a star and focus it well, the star does not become a perfect dot. It becomes a tiny bright disk with faint rings around it, a pattern made by the opening of the lens or mirror. The light cannot squeeze through a hole without spreading a little. This spreading draws a round spot because the hole is round. Those dim rings are a quiet signature of the tool itself, a reminder that even the best glass has to obey the rules of waves. Photographers call blurred shapes bokeh, and they notice that the shape of the aperture changes the look of out-of-focus highlights. Round openings make round bubbles of light. Polygon openings make soft shapes with sides. In every case, the idea is the same. Light spreads in circles when it passes through a ring. Rainbows remind us that the sky loves circles too. From the ground we see a bow, but from an airplane, when the sun is behind you and the clouds are below, you can sometimes see a full circle rainbow around the plane's shadow. Ice crystals in high clouds can ring the sun with a pale halo at a steady angle, and the moon can wear the same halo on cold nights. These circles come from how water or ice bends light by a certain amount. The bending is set by the stuff itself and by color. Red bends a little less, violet a little more, so the ring splits into gentle bands. We do not draw these circles. The sky draws them for us when small pieces of itself line up just right. Even when there is no cloud to bend light, the air can scatter it into round forms. On foggy days, if you stand with the sun behind you, you may see a small bright ring around your shadow's head, a soft circle called a glory. Tiny droplets in the fog make this shining ring by sending light back toward you in a special way. Air travelers sometimes see a larger glory around their airplane's shadow on the cloud. As for a few heartbeats, you witness yourself wrapped in a circle drawn by light. It feels like a private sign, but it is simply the sky following simple rules with great elegance. Some circles of light come from gravity rather than water or glass or air. When the path of light bends around a massive object far away, the image of a single galaxy can stretch into a long arc, and if the alignment is just right, into a near-perfect ring. Astronomers call these Einstein rings. They are rare and wondrous, and they carry deep information. The roundness tells us about the mass in the lensing object, including the dark matter we cannot see. In this way, a circle of light maps invisible weight. The ring is not painted by a hand, but by space itself. It is proof that geometry is alive, that curves are not only on paper, but in the night beyond our world. The biggest, faintest ring we know is an old one that covers the whole sky, the first light from the young universe. When we look at the ancient microwave glow left from the early days, we map tiny ripples in that light. Those ripples are linked to round waves of sound that once moved through hot, thin matter before the first atoms formed. Imagine a vast drum and imagine waves racing outward in spheres. When the universe cooled enough for light to travel freely, those shells were frozen in place. We see their trace today as gentle patterns across the entire sky. They are circles so large that we cannot see the curves directly, but the numbers reveal their rhythm. The oldest light carries memory in round forms, telling us about how everything began to cluster and how space has stretched since then. Closer to home, planets and moons teach the language of circles each day. The moon's path draws month-long loops in the sky. The tilt of Earth's axis sets a yearly circle of seasons, and the sun's rising point creeps along the horizon and then returns. If you photograph the sun from the same place at the same time each day for a year, the points make a looped shape in the sky that looks like a stretched figure 8. This path, called an analemma, is a kind of circle with a twist, born from the mix of Earth's tilt and the oval path around the sun. The result is a slow, steady dance that marks time for sailors, farmers, and anyone who loves to watch shadows move on a wall. Circles also appear in the rings of the giant planets. Saturn's rings are made of countless pieces of ice and rock that orbit in thin, flat sheets. Each grain follows the simple rule of a circle or an oval set by gravity. Tiny moons nearby act like shepherds, shaping sharp edges and narrow gaps. Sunlight turns the rings into pure writing in the dark, curves so bright you can see them from a small telescope in your yard. The rings change with the seasons, sometimes opening wide, sometimes turning edge-on until they almost vanish. In those changes, we see how a circle can be both steady and new, both repeating and surprising. We also shape circles of light here on Earth with our own machines. In large, round tunnels, scientists steer fast-moving particles with magnets, turning their paths into circles. As the charged particles curve, they release light, bright, pure beams that we can use to study materials, proteins, and even artwork. In this way, circles of motion become tools for circles of light that help doctors and builders and historians. A simple shape becomes a doorway for many kinds of seeing. It is a reminder that geometry is not only beauty, but also help. If you listen to nature with your eyes, you start to hear a quiet rhythm inside all these circles. The heart beats and rests in a cycle. Lungs fill and empty. Sleep and waking follow a daily loop tied to light and dark, a gentle circle our bodies learned from the sky long ago. Plants open and close. Birds migrate and return. Even the tides rise and fall in curves set by the moon's pull. These patterns are not light themselves, but light writes them. Sunrise and sunset are the hands of a clock that turns the whole world. The loops of living things echo the loops of the heavens. Circles written in light become circles written in life. It is helpful to rest in the thought that circles are not all perfect. In space, orbits are often slightly oval. Rings can have waves and gaps. Rainbows sometimes break into pieces when clouds shift. Camera rings can blur if the air shakes. These small changes do not ruin the circle, they make it human, earthly, and real. The idea of a loop remains, the path still returns, the rhythm still holds. In your own life, your plans may not make perfect rounds, your days may wobble. But the cycle of work and rest, of effort and ease, of giving and receiving can still be a circle that carries you forward without breaking you. There is a kind of kindness in circles because they have no sharp ends. A circle invites you to keep moving at a pace you can sustain. When light follows a circle, like the ring near a black hole. Where photons can orbit, it shows us that sometimes the path is to hold steady, to stay near a source and not rush away. When a planet follows a loop around its star, it shows that long, patient paths can be safe and full of warmth. When you draw circles in the sand for a child, you are making a small world where the eye and the hand can rest, where the form explains itself without edges to snag on. The universe seems to know that we need shapes like this. Light also carries a circle in the way it vibrates. Sometimes the tip of its electric field spins as the wave moves, tracing a tiny helix that when you look across it becomes a circle. This is called circular polarization, but you do not need the term. You only need the picture, light dancing as it travels, the smallest circle moving inside the larger circle of the beam. We use this property in cameras, in 3D glasses, in screens, and in many tools. Again, a circle gives both beauty and usefulness. Because circles repeat, they help us measure and remember. The round face of a clock mirrors the round motion of the hour hand. The compass turns with the world and points to a steady north, letting sailors draw arcs across a map to find safe routes. When we mark places on Earth, we use circles of latitude and longitude, a net of curves that wrap the globe. In the sky, we chart the dome with circles too, the path of the ecliptic, the round measure of angles called degrees. These are human choices, yet they feel natural because the world itself moves in curves. We copy what the sky has shown since our first nights outdoors. Circles written in light can also teach patience. To see the faint rings around a star through a telescope, you have to wait for air to settle. To catch a full circle rainbow from a plane, you have to look from the right place at just the right time. To photograph halos around the moon, you need a cold night and a steady hand. So much of this beauty lives at the edge of chance, where the eye meets the world with care. That gentle waiting shapes the heart. It slows us down to the pace of the sky, which is never in a hurry and never late. When we bring circles into our homes, round windows, round tables, candles burning in round holders, we echo the comfort we feel under round moons and round suns. It is not only style, it is a memory. We remember the womb, a safe curve. We remember the ring that marks promise. We remember the wheel that carries us without end. Even a humble bowl is a circle that gives, holding what we need and offering it back. the world feeds us with curves. It makes sense that we choose curves when we want to feel at peace. Still, the most moving circles are the ones the night draws for us. Think of star trails in a long photo, bright lines looping around the north or south pole of the sky as Earth turns. Each star writes a circle because we are spinning below it. The picture looks like a great clock, slow and exact. To make such a photo, someone has to stand in the dark and trust the hours to pass. The result is proof that time itself can be drawn. It is also proof that we live inside circles whether we notice them or not. Our days are rings, our years are rings. Our memories often return to the same gentle places. When light draws circles, it is not closing us in. It is showing us how to move without losing ourselves. The curve brings us back after a long path. The ring holds a space open. The orbit keeps a world near warmth. The halo reminds us that ordinary air can write a miracle if the ice and the angle are just right. In each of these signs, there is a lesson about how to live, in steady motion, in gentle return, in balance between far and near. And so, when you step outside at night and see a halo around the moon, or the round glow of a street lamp softened by mist, or the Milky Way arcing from one horizon to the other, let yourself feel the simple truth that shapes it all. Light loves circles because the world is made to carry them. Space bends them, matter guides them, time repeats them. Your own life is held by them. You wake, you work, you rest, and you rise again. You breathe in a loop that keeps you here. You love in cycles of giving and receiving. When things are hard, you can trust that the circle will bring you back to calm if you keep moving with care. The sky has been writing these lessons for as long as there have been eyes to see. We did not make the circles. We only learned to notice them and to let them steady us. In their roundness there is softness. In their return there is hope. In their smooth path there is a promise that even in a wide and changing universe, some shapes are faithful. They come back. They hold. They endure like the ring of light around a small flame, like the round face of the sun at dawn, like the quiet disk of the moon rising over water. Circles written in light tell us we belong to a story that bends without breaking, repeats without growing dull, and shines without sh. Outing. If you listen closely, the circles speak in a language without words. They say, stay near what warms you. They say, move but do not rush. They say, return and learn and return again. They say, trust the curve. And when you do, you find that the night feels kinder, the day feels clearer, and your own steps fall into a rhythm that makes sense. The world is wide, but the circle brings it home. The universe is deep, but the ring of light makes a doorway your heart can pass through without fear. And in that doorway, the story keeps turning, patient and bright, as the circles carry you forward with a gentle hand. The circle is a gentle teacher. It begins, it moves, it returns, and it holds the place where it started as if to say, you are safe to come back. When we look for circles in light, we find them everywhere, from the paths of planets to the halos around the moon, from the rings of Saturn to the soft round shapes in a camera's blur. By now you can almost feel the curve inside your chest when you breathe. In and out, the same round motion that keeps you alive. The night sky writes this motion on the largest stage, and your own body writes it in the smallest room. The circle is not only a shape we see, it is a rhythm we live. Think of a lighthouse on a quiet coast. Its lamp turns and turns, and a beam of light sweeps the sea in a steady circle. Ships far out on the water wait for that sweep like a heartbeat. In the same way, the earth turns beneath the stars, and the stars seem to wheel around a steady point near the north. Long exposure photos show round paths, each star writing its own ring across the dark. We say the sky moves, but really we turn, and the circle appears from that turning. This is the soft trick the world plays to teach us time. One slow spin makes a night, many spins make a year, and the rings of the heavens mark both. Light itself carries this turning in tiny ways. Sometimes the electric field of a light wave spins as the wave travels, drawing a tiny circle at right angles to the direction of motion. We call it circular polarization, but you do not need the term to feel the picture. Imagine a dancer twirling while gliding forward across a stage. The path is a line, but the motion around that line is a circle. Screens and lenses use this, but nature uses it first. The way light can spin makes rainbows shine in special glass, makes beetle shells shimmer, makes the sky's glare soften when you wear certain sunglasses. Even the small dance of light keeps a round beat. Circles in light remind us that curves are the kindest ways to hold energy. A wave that travels through water spreads as growing rings because that shape shares energy evenly in all directions. A sound that leaves a bell spreads in round shells for the same reason. When light leaves a star, it also expands in spheres, like an endless sequence of glowing shells that grow and grow until some small part of them touches your eye. You and the star share that circle in the moment of seeing. It does not matter that you are tiny and the star is huge, that you are near and it is far. The circle joins you quietly. It needs no effort on your part. It only asks that you look. The curves of gravity make circles even when no one draws them. Take a planet and a star. The planet follows the straightest possible path in the curved fabric of space around the star, and that path seen by us is a loop. It is a promise that repeats. It carries seasons, harvests, tides, and the simple comfort of sunrise. The moon makes a smaller promise to Earth, and we keep count of the months by watching its face grow full and then thin again. You can almost hear the soft click of a wheel when you step outside each night and see the moon in a new place. You begin to trust that a circle will complete itself without hurry. It always has time. Some circles are delicate and need just the right conditions to appear. A ring around the sun on a cold day comes from tiny crystals shaped like simple prisms, each one flipping and bending sunlight by just the right angle. A full-circle rainbow seen from a plane needs drops of water, a clear view, and the sun behind you. A glory around your own shadow on a cloud needs droplets all the same size and you in the correct spot in the sky. These moments feel like gifts. They do not last long, but the memory does, and the mind draws a circle around the moment itself, holding it close so it can warm you later. Light is kind in that way. It makes small rounds that you can carry in your pocket like smooth stones. Other circles are strong and ancient. The rings of Saturn began as pieces pulled into a flat sheet by gravity and motion, and then shaped by small moons that tidy the edges. The flatness of the rings shows how the planet's gravity presses motion into a plane, as if a hand smoothed a rough fabric. Sunlight turns the rings into clear writing, and any small telescope is enough to read a few letters. You will not forget the first time you see them. The circle is so clean that it feels like a promise kept by the universe itself. It seems to say, order is real, beauty is patient. Around black holes, circles of light become a border between seen and unseen. Photons can fall into orbits near the edge, looping again and again, while some escape and carry the outline to us. The result is a glowing ring that frames a shadow. It is a circle drawn by the steepest gravity, a thin halo around a place where even light cannot return. The first image of such a ring felt like a door opening. It showed that the laws we trust at home still work at the edge of mystery. It is a relief to find out that the same gentle curve that guides a planet can also outline the mouth of a black hole. The world is strange, but it is not wild without rules. Sometimes light draws circles because we ask it to. In a telescope, a star will always look like a tiny round disk with faint rings. This pattern is the airy disk, born from the round opening of the telescope. It is the soft fingerprint of the tool. It tells us there is a limit to how sharply any lens can focus, not because the maker failed, but because waves insist on spreading when they pass through holes. This limit is a kindness too. It keeps us from believing in perfect sharpness where none can exist. It reminds us to accept what is real and to be gentle with the edges of our seeing. Circles also appear when light meets thin films, as in soap bubbles and oil slicks. The film is thicker in some places, thinner in others, and the light that reflects from the top and bottom layers meets in your eye either in step or out of step. They add or they cancel, and you see rings of color. These circles are like a soft language in which the film tells you its shape. The bubble whispers to you in color bands, and you can almost hear it sigh when it shrinks and pops, ending the story with a tiny kiss of sound. Even the end is a round thing, a small sphere that vanishes back into air. If you could look at the entire sky and map the tiny temperature ripples in the oldest light, the faint microwave afterglow from the young universe, you would find a hidden order of circles there too. Long ago, before atoms formed, the hot matter and light behaved like a thin fluid. Sound waves ran through it, expanding as round shells that left slight marks in density. When the universe cooled and light broke free, those shells froze and left their pattern. Today, when we measure that glow, we read those circles in the numbers. They tell us how fast space has stretched, how much matter it holds, and how softly curved it is on the grandest scales. This is the largest circle we know, a memory drawn around everything. There are circles we can walk and circles we cannot finish in a lifetime. A year is a circle we can hold. A cycle of ice ages is one we can only study. The slow wobble of Earth's axis draws a giant circle in the sky over 26,000 years, moving the North Star from one bright point to another. Sailors long ago used one star to steer and told stories about its fixity. Their great-grandchildren used a slightly different star, and their great-grandchildren will use another. The circle is so broad that no one person feels it, and yet there it is, a curve that links generations like beads on a necklace. Light writes circles in ways that help us care for the world. A sundial uses the sun's round path to keep time without wires or screens. A lighthouse's beam tells a ship its place by the timing of a turn. A ring of dim streetlights, aimed downward and shielded, keeps a town safe while letting the Milky Way be seen. The circular face of a clock is a reflection of the sky itself, a small echo you can hang on a wall. When we choose circles in our designs, we choose calm. We choose to copy the sky's habits. We choose to move in steady loops rather than hard zigs and zags. The shape teaches the mood. It is fair to ask whether all things return. Not everything comes back as it was. Stars end and do not light again. Lives end and do not return in the same form. But even here, circles appear in gentler ways. A star's death sends elements into space, and those elements find new stars and new planets. Water evaporates, becomes cloud, and falls as rain. Leaves fall, feed the soil, and new growth rises. Grief itself is not a closed loop, yet the heart learns to breathe again in slow rounds. The circle does not promise that we will never lose. It promises that motion continues, that light keeps traveling, that new paths curve from what is gone. When we live with circles in mind, we learn patience. We watch the moon and wait for its return. We plant at the right time and let the seasons do their work. We sleep when night comes and trust that morning will arrive at the end of the long arc of darkness. We breathe deeply and slowly when the day feels too sharp. We step outside and let our eyes rise along. The Milky Way's great sweep. You can do this almost anywhere if the sky is clear and the lights are kind. You lift your chin, your shoulders drop, and a quiet circle completes itself from the stars to your body and back again. Light circles can also be an ethic. They can suggest how to act. A circle shares what it holds all the way around. It is fair in every direction. When you speak, you can try to speak that way, sharing your warmth evenly. When you listen, you can do it in a round way too, giving each person their turn, letting the conversation return to those who have not yet been heard. A table that is round has no sharp corner and no head. It invites a different kind of talk. The sky has been modeling this for us for a very long time. The lesson was always above us. We only had to look up. Now imagine a child drawing circles on a beach with a stick. The waves erase the outer ring and the child draws another. The game repeats and laughter repeats with it. The sun makes its own long circle toward the horizon. A ship far out sees the lighthouse beam again, and a bird above the water turns in a smooth arc to face the wind. None of these circles are perfect, and none need to be. They are signs of life, motion with return, effort with rest, energy with balance. Light touches each scene, writes a soft border around forms, and then moves on. It leaves a feeling that things make sense. If you have ever worn a simple ring, you know the comfort of its shape. It warms to your skin and becomes part of you. If you have ever watched a small flame in a round glass, you know how safe the light looks inside its circle. If you have ever traced the rim of a bowl while thinking, you know how curves can steady the mind. These are quiet echoes of the larger circles that hold our days. We are not separate from the sky's habits. We are made inside them and keep them with our hands without trying. Light keeps writing while we sleep. It draws gentle circles as Earth turns. It draws the round line of dawn along the edge of the world, moving from sea to mountain to field. It draws the slow curve of dusk back the other way. It draws the tiny halo in a drop of dew and the wide pale ring around the sun on a winter morning. It draws the circle in the pupil of a waking eye. In each case, the drawing is also a promise. You will see again, you will breathe again, you will have another chance to move with the curve. One day, very far in the future, the sky will change. Galaxies will drift beyond sight, stars will fade, the grand circles will slow in ways we can only whisper about now. But we live now in a time full of rings and arcs, in a universe still warm with circles written in light. That is enough. It is more than enough. It is a cup filled to the rim. We can drink from it each night by stepping outside and letting our eyes adjust. We can drink from it each day by noticing small round things, a wheel, a plate, a coin of sunlight on the floor. When you finish this page and close your eyes, the circle remains. It is in the breath you draw and the breath you let go. It is in the way your thoughts loop and settle. It is in the memory of halos, rainbows, rings around planets, and star trails that prove time can be drawn. You belong to these things. You are not outside them. You are a point on a circle that keeps moving and returns with grace. Light will find you again, and you will see your place in the curve and feel calm. So let the story of circles rest here for now, like a small moon setting into a lake. The ripples it leaves will move outward and fade, and the surface will grow still. But the lake remains round, and the moon will rise again tomorrow to write the same bright letter on the water. Light will keep its promise. The curve will hold. And when you need it, you can step into the night, find a soft ring in the sky or a quiet circle in your mind, and remember that the universe is gentle enough to draw the same shape over and over until you feel at home inside it.